That's fine. I call this meeting, special meeting of the governing board to order. All, let the record show all members are present. Can I get a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay.
Just want to ask, you want to ask him if we can make those calls?
Yeah, we can. And we don't need to actually have a motion to have a discussion since we don't really have a motion.
Sure.
I don't believe. I mean, there's one item. So, Jim, one of the questions that we did have, I know Ms. Orley had expressed she has cell phone numbers for the vendors. Is there any procurement issues with, if we do, for some reason, decide we want to call them and ask clarifying questions, is there any issue with procurement?
President Fisher, no, there is not. In fact, included in the packet, we informed them that we might need to contact them for clarification.
I just want to double check. I know I saw some of it, but I haven't read all of it. So, the two things that I just gave you, and they're the single page. I did ask that Dr. Weitenheimer look at, since he wasn't going to be here today, and just provide kind of his take. So that's what that one sheet is. Just, you know, it's kind of just a, whether he knew of them or not, basics. And the other sheet I gave you isn't something that necessarily is for this, but when you're looking at costs, this is the clear direction that we had discussed doing, and so this gives you an idea of what the cost is. So that would be an addition too, so if it is something that we decide doing, just so
So-
you're aware of it.
So what you're saying is after we do our hiring, whatever, we want to dovetail what we already have for this, so we already have our clear direction team profile.
Right, this, do you remember at our study session, we talked about potentially having the new superintendent or the candidates do this?
Like the top,
yeah, so-
the top three
right,
candidates
right,
might
We
so
get
haven't had
evaluated.
time to talk about
Yeah.
it. This is just so that you have the
Okay.
pricing, it's at the bottom of the sheet.
Okay.
Okay? So if it is a factor for you, you
Got it.
know that. Okay. And I don't know what anyone has had, it hasn't been a lot of time since our last meeting, so I don't know who's read what. Does anyone have a specific plan? I can tell you how I would normally do this, or if anyone has something that they're most comfortable with, so that we can kind of all just get on the same page. Miss Tweedy?
I read them all last night. I actually, in my mind, and I don't know if anyone else did this, but there were two that I really thought wouldn't be a good choice if anybody else did the same thing, to see if any of us are in the same place on that,
Okay,
and then
so
we kind
can
of
do
get a
that.
smaller
Did
group.
everybody narrow it down?
Well, I read through them this afternoon, and I sort of ranked them in a 1, 2, 3, 4 order.
I did as well. When I read them, I over my initial reading, I ranked them 1 to 5, and then looked more closely at my top 2.
Okay, Ms. Ordway, did you rank yours?
I did do the same, and which is why I thought maybe the phone numbers would be good, so we could get our clarification.
So I guess let's go ahead and, I can handwrite out a rubric.
I kind
can
of did
take
the
notes if
same,
you
but
want,
I was
Kim.
really close on 3 of them. There were 2 I just didn't like.
I'll just do it by,
And I had 2 that were very close, and one that I didn't particularly think would be a good fit.
okay.
You know, that's, Miss Redding had a good idea. Why don't we all just pull out what our top ones are for the score sheets? I didn't fill out the score sheets, but I can pull out my top from the score sheets.
Well, I can do that too.
And so then we can just put them together and see what we have in common.
Are we putting out pulling out the top 2 or 3?
Or we just want to rank them 1 to 5 and see where we land.
Okay.
Well, I'm just trying to put a way for us to get them, to see commonality. Because if
Got it.
there's one thing that's 5, none of us are really particularly interested in someone, it's easier to eliminate and then just
Yes.
focus on,
Okay.
So we just want to go 1 through 5?
we can do that.
Okay.
Okay.
So am I just writing it on my sheet?
Mm-hmm.
Which sheet do you want? This one, the 5 sheet?
Yes.
I
So
didn't
we just
write it
rank
on
those.
there, though.
Well,
Do you
we're
want
just
just our
ranking them 1
ranking?
to 5, that's all we're doing.
For right-hand corner.
Yeah.
Okay.
You need a
where
clean
did you-
set? Here you
well,
go.
I don't know where the sheets are.
Here's another set. I had my set from last
we-
night.
Don't we have this one? Can we just write it?
Good.
Yeah.
I just did it on that other one.
You want our initials on here, so we know which set belongs to?
We do it on the cot.
Can
Is
if you
there-
want.
We just do it on the 1 through 5. You have it 1 through 5.
Oh,
right?
okay.
We can do it on that too. I don't really
Never mind.
have a preference.
I would say we could
wouldn't.
just,
I wouldn't do that.
Oh, what do I do? Oh, rank it on these?
yeah,
That would be easier, huh?
That makes too much sense.
and then we could just
Then
pass
we're
them
not
down to
giving
Kim,
her-
and Kim can
okay.
tabulate.
Your
There we
initials.
go.
Can I put your
Oh.
initials on there?
Hold on a second.
I add the B.
Right, you-
Well, the only thing for me is, I guess I was thinking different. I didn't actually rank the top 3 because I was like, this is the area where I just wanted to see where everybody.
Oh, okay.
That's Like- okay.
Well, that's okay.
My top 3 the same, or my top 2 the same.
There you go. Then do
Okay.
1, 1, 3, 4, 5, or what?
Okay, okay, so let me find the one I thought was a little bit. One, 3, okay. Okay. My top two are in any order.
Yeah, well, my 2 and 3 were kind of interchangeable.
I didn't want to get down to like a real favorite because I kind of felt like that was the area where I wanted to see where other people were.
Yeah, that's, I think we just, I think my top two could probably be interchangeable too.
Mine also.
The only ones I really felt strongly about were my bottom two.
Sometimes that's
it's hard
telling.
to- it's-
Yeah,
it's a good way
sometimes
to
that is
start.
very telling.
I agree.
Because keep in mind, whoever we select, we have to work with. So if they're on your bottom and there's a real reason, it's good to just know that right
Oh,
away.
no, I had
Yeah.
reasons for my bottom too. And then honestly, the cost on some of them, I think even though they're not priced the same, they're gonna be close, cause like one's gonna charge for copies, one's gonna. Exactly. I just don't know that the cost was discernible on like some of them.
I felt
It's
the
not
same
because
way.
there's all the additional costs, I think.
Yeah,
I felt the same way,
okay.
yeah.
That's fast.
She does. Okay, so let's see.
Like she's done this before or something.
Wow, we are all over the place.
Well, that's
Okay,
funny.
so, you know what we could do, just because it's a mathematical thing? Do it, get a percentage. Do you want to just do a?
Was it
get a-
really
get a
that bad?
score? Well, it's kind of all over the, it's like ASBA is, 2 people have it as their 5, 1 is a 4, 1 is a 3, and 1 is a 2.
Okay,
Um,
nobody, so if people are picking it as a 5 and a 4.
But there's also a 2 and a 3.
Only one person. But it's
Yeah.
nobody's
Yeah, they're
top
not a 1.
choice, so I think,
So, well, they're nobody's top choice.
so then I don't know that we'd have to think.
ECRA has 1 person as their top choice.
HYA.
JG has 1 person as their top choice. McPherson has 1 person as their top choice, and Ray and Associates has 3 people as their top choice.
Oh,
2.
who had 2?
Ray and Associates has 3 as their number 1 choice and 2 as their number 2 choice. Nope. Nope. 1s and 2s.
Oh,
That's
3
it.
1s and 2s.
Well, I'd say it's a contender then.
But what
Yeah.
was about McPherson? They only-
McPherson has a 1, 2 3s, and 2 4s.
You know what, you know what might help me? Because maybe we missed something other people caught.
Okay.
Would everybody be comfortable explaining who their 5 was and why in case we missed something and we all agree to eliminate them based on what you're gonna say?
Okay.
That's a good idea.
Okay. I can go first on my 5 if you want.
Okay.
I did JG as my 5, and the reason I picked them as my 5, when you looked at the page of previous searches they did, most of them weren't for superintendents, only 2 were. And only, for some reason, only 3 of them have the word place next to it, so it made me think they might have done a lot of unsuccessful searches. So if we turn to the page, so I was just kind of worried that we may end up with no superintendent by June if we chose them.
I also, are you finished?
And, yeah, if you could turn to that page though, and if anyone is reading, if I read that page wrong.
Which page?
The page where it talks about who they've placed, almost none of them were actually for a superintendent position. On the electronic copy anyway, I'm trying to find it in the hard copy now. Oh, here, okay. It's page
references?
9.
Yeah.
Okay, so only the top 3 even say superintendent?
I think these are their references, though, not their placements.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
these are their references.
oh, so I don't know who they placed.
Oh, no, you're right, they are placed.
Well-
Dr. Kent Scribner, Michael Cordona.
Yeah.
There are some placed, yes.
And
I see
then,
what you're
and then
saying.
nothing else says placed. I couldn't figure out what they'd done, like.
They
what
had,
would
like in the one.
Well, but also, well, they did a superintendent, a superintendent, a superintendent.
they
We
did
have a
CFO
CFO,
search.
12
Doesn't it say-
executive.
But do you see only the top 3 say placed?
Oh, I see what you're saying, because
You're
they
saying.
placed.
So
Yeah.
like, were they unsuccessful at placing? And I just.
Well, and
I
it may be the
couldn't tell if
difference
they
is
did a
if you
good
look
job
at the,
or
if you look at the positions that they're doing, in this type of a search, they would place, they would, superintendent or that level is different than, say, a director.
Right.
They will provide input, they'll provide, like a clear direction, or they'll do a personality assessments, fit to the organization assessments. So they provide those type of assessments. They're like a support, but those recruitments are actually held with the local HR department. And so it would be the local HR department that would actually place that position.
I just, anyway,
I'm just
I was
thinking
the
that's the way
least-
I would
I
read
was
that.
the least comfortable
Because like when
with
we
what
did our
they
directors, that's why we
provided.
did it.
Right. I was the least impressed with JG Consulting as well. So
I have to say my only positive thing for JG, and it's not that I dislike JG, I think they were, yeah, I guess they were my last one too. It was just that they were, I liked that they were very confidential during Dr. Scribner's, because Dr. Scribner was from Phoenix Union.
right.
And I liked that it was very confidential. I mean, we really, had he not been selected, we would have never known he had even been recruited.
Right.
And I appreciated that part because it's a very respectful thing to the recruitee. But I didn't like. I think they also did. No, they weren't. They were. This other one is one that did Phoenix Union, but it was just. There was just some other things that made me uneasy, and
Okay.
through the process, and so mine was too personal.
Okay,
I
so
would not recommend them.
so can we
personal.
agree to put them?
Yeah, I was concerned that they have a heavy Texas presence, but not
Right.
anyplace else. And the places in Texas are not large metropolitan areas like McAllen or San Marcos, or those are
Well, and
smaller
that's what they
communities.
listed, but yeah, some of them are pretty big.
So is anyone objecting to removing
No, I was
them?
just going to say, I don't think that the
They're 3
the
fives.
breadth of their work is going to be deep enough for the time frame that we have to pick.
Right.
So I think we
Okay.
have 5 fives.
So we're so we're good at eliminating JG.
Someone else want to sell their 5 to us?
Okay. I mean, I will say, and actually, I think, Kim, did you have my 5? Do you have it as JG? I could have sworn my 5 was ASBA. My 5 was JG.
My 5 was JG.
Oh, that's okay. That's okay. Then it's so long as the numbers are right, because
Fine.
my 5 was ASBA.
Okay.
Somebody's fessing up to the 5, it's good.
Yeah. And the reason is, I mean, ASBA is a wonderful organization. I think it's, I have 2 concerns with ASBA. One is, it's fairly limited locally. It really is, and I think we really need a national search, to be successful. I think we're going to need a national, even if we end up with someone local, I think we need to know what our options are, and ASBA is very limited to local. I also have concerns with potential, in their advertisements, I'm not necessarily crazy about, I don't know that we would be depicted in an appropriate light
Okay.
by ASBA, and that was a significant concern for me. So that was my reasoning.
Okay.
Anyone else?
Well, I thought that their proposal was very well organized. It seemed very thorough. I thought their strong knowledge of Arizona was actually an asset, although I can see your point that it is local. So I think I had ranked it as 2, yeah.
I gave them a 4. I did think they were well organized. I guess my biggest issue was our short time frame, and I think the smaller our search is, the less likely it is we're going to find somebody we're happy with in time, just because of that. But other than that, I had no issue.
They were my number 3. I thought it was a very professional, well-organized document, but my concern was with the probably more limited local search. So that's how they ended up as 3.
I think that it was a beautifully organized book, and it was, but with the time frame that we're giving the firm that we choose, all of the firms have access to NSBA people, and I think ASA is NASA, although that would be NASA, but I'm not sure.
NASS, I think, was the acronym.
But anyway,
I remember seeing that.
yeah, but I just think that if we had a longer lead time, that probably would have been an upper choice for me. And they don't limit themselves locally, but I think that you look locally, so.
Yeah. So those are the only 2 that, ASBA, is everybody good with eliminating ASBA? That's the only other one that had 5s.
I'm good with that.
I don't have strong feelings about keeping it, so if it's something that the rest of the group,
I think
the board is
if
okay
it,
with.
if it helps us narrow the search or the
Okay.
number we're
The search
looking
for
at
the
down,
search
I think
firm?
that's a step.
Right.
Did
Okay.
I'm fine
anybody
with
give
that.
any of the 3 that are left a 5?
No, that's why I was asking on that one. So
No.
the next lowest ranked, I guess, would be ECRA.
Oh, that's the HYA one on the.
That's HYA.
Yeah, that's the,
Hazard Young.
Okay, I think I gave that a 1.
yeah,
I don't remember what I gave that one.
a 3.
A 3, okay. I do have some notes on that.
But you know what? I was with everybody but the 2 we eliminated. There wasn't. I gave them a 1, but I think I just gave them a 1 because the 1 just seemed.
Yeah, you
real-
have 2 ones. You have them, and you have Ray and Associates as a 1 also.
Well, everybody but the 2 we've eliminated. I was
Okay.
kind of like having a hard time on.
Oh, okay.
But then those 2 were the last 2. And I guess the only reason why it was no big deal, but, and, you know, just trying to come up with something. But I guess I gave McPherson a 3 because, which I wasn't even that unhappy. I just thought they were maybe more salesy than the other 2, but it was just when you're trying to get.
Well, they had a lot of pages of copies of letters to the editor, so it was, again, more,
I felt like it was
Sales.
a dog and pony show, and I was a little.
and I also noticed they've been in business since 1991 compared to Ray and Associates, which is 1975, so shorter amount of time in experience.
Right, but in McPherson's presentation, one of the things that impressed me was the sustainability section where it talks about their candidate retention on page 5, and they have over the last 5 years, 85% of the administrators are in the position for which they were hired.
Oh, yeah.
55% are still in the position for which they were hired in the past 10 years, and almost half are still there within the past 15 years. So
I did notice that also.
that was,
That was
yeah.
an impressive, and none of the other proposals provided that information
Data.
to me, and I didn't try to make the phone calls to
I did.
see what that is, but maybe Mrs. Ordway has it.
Yeah, that's an excellent point.
Are we going to talk about McPherson now?
Yeah, because we were on ECRA.
Okay, so
We can do that one too.
with McPherson,
No.
Yes? Oh, with McPherson, when I called today, they have 100 consultants that network with superintendents and different areas where this is the area that I think we're interested in, is the superintendents that aren't looking, but if they find a spot that they need that new challenge and it matches, that they're out there, so they're not on the 1,000 applicant bank.
Yeah, not
But
looking,
anyway,
but
so-
might be interested.
So that was one of the things, and they did also just placed the new internal auditor in Tucson Unified, and that I think they're doing that tonight or something. So it's a little bit fresh here, and they're the CEO, Mr. Tom Jacobson, is a snowbird in Paradise Valley, so does have, according to information, has a pulse on at least the Arizona educational politics, so on and so forth. So, so there is a number to call if we choose to get, if we've got 4 or 5 questions that we want to ask, like, why did you answer this? How do you think you're going to, give us the perfect match? I'd rather, I think it's good to talk.
I did like how they said they do their reference checks and they don't actually just leave it with the references that because you're only going to write down people who would say good things about you. So I did like how they asked the references for references. I did like that.
Mm-hmm.
Good idea. My only concern with, and I guess it's not significant, but it is when we get too connected, too attached to here, is I fear the good old boy becomes a factor.
What do you mean? I don't understand.
Attached to here.
In other words, all the reasons you said, they just did Tucson, and he's a snowbird here, and that kind of stuff, and those things kind of actually make me leery. The other things that I was impressed with, but it's just because I was impressed that that he's recruited for. And it was actually in Dr. V's note for the Mid-State Consortium.
Right.
That actually, it was like, okay, I like that, but, so it's, my fear is I don't want to get, anytime an administration changes in a local district, within 6 months, the administration from their prior district is at the new district. And I'm just concerned with, and sometimes that's not good. It's a lot of times not good. So that's just a concern. I didn't want it to be it was just a concern of mine.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I looked at that too, because you don't want it to just be who I have ready to go.
Right.
But this is the it's the CEO. I don't know that he's. I just don't. It's not. Wouldn't
know
be
that
his.
it's
It
that
wouldn't be
close.
his
Yeah.
administration. He's got a couple of degrees of separation, and my point was that. Whereas I want it to be a national search, I don't want someone to come in that comes from a state that actually funds something
And doesn't
that
know.
actually has no idea of what it means not to have anything. And what do you do with that bag of nothing? So
Right.
that's why I thought that
Oh,
having
okay, I see your
having
point.
just some kind of
Point of reference.
a point of reference to where you're going to be sending someone, that would be helpful for us.
And I would agree with you, Ann, that I think it's important to have someone who understands the challenges that we face here in Arizona.
Right. Doing the search.
And-
Okay.
Yeah.
And on page 13, the other thing that stood out to me was that they actually made notation about the fact that while they don't represent any specific candidates, they do maintain that kind of bank of candidates that might not actually be looking,
Mhm.
but they would call to say, this is open, might you be interested?
So what you're saying is, and I guess the reason I put, and maybe I overlooked, or maybe it's standard and they just didn't put it in their materials, but ECRA is the only one where I saw that they had a guarantee that if they did place somebody in your district, they wouldn't place them again for 2 years without written permission.
Oh, I do remember that.
And I didn't
HC.
see that in
also.
any of the other materials. So thinking if you have a bank, I would be very upset if we paid this kind of money and they
But-
put ours.
And then they
Yeah,
put them
but-
somewhere else.
But almost all of them had a 1 or 2 year guarantee that
Right.
if the superintendent left
That
within 1 or 2
They would do
years,
the
they would
search
do the search for
us. So it
free.
would cost them.
So,
But it still leaves
Well, I was going to
us-
say, but then you've got to remember too, the contract's 3
After
years. So
3
we're
years.
talking about a
Yeah.
whole bunch of
Yeah.
1 and 2 and 3 year things that would not go well for anybody.
Yeah, they wouldn't go good for even the superintendent leaving.
Exactly.
So,
Does that make sense, Darcy?
Yeah, I didn't know if it was a problem that nobody else wrote
Right.
that. I didn't know if anybody else.
I think it's a standard kind of a
It's a
standard
standard.
industry norm to, you wouldn't go back and recruit a superintendent. You
That got
just
fired
place-
before 3 years.
yeah, I'm not really sure you would want to be known as the company that repeatedly places a
Yeah.
failing superintendent.
That'd be bad. Okay. But that,
I saw Jim Miglerino smile.
did we make him laugh today?
We did.
So,
Michelle Benson and, are you smiling too? And Monica is smiling. Gail is still on that computer, not smiling.
so that was just
Yeah,
what
we
I had to
really
say about
packed the
McPherson.
Well, they don't think we're looking.
Okay, well, that was the only thing I just noted. I don't
Right.
know if it's an issue.
Well, the only, Jenny, you were the only other one that ranked McPherson low. Were there reasons that they were lower than?
not any like deal breaker
Type things?
type things, yeah. I mean,
Outline too.
after listening to the discussion, I certainly think there was considering.
Okay. So we're still at 3.
So we're still at 3.
So we're still at 3.
But that's
We're
okay.
at ECRA, McPherson, and Ray and Associates.
'Kay.
Ann and Ann are the two who ranked ECRA lower. Perhaps maybe it would help us who ranked them higher if you shared with us your reasons for ranking them lower. We kind of started on ECRA
Right.
and jumped
Right,
over to
kind of went the
McPherson.
other way.
Yeah.
It was just kind of middle of the road for me. It wasn't, I liked the detail in the other two that I ranked, one in Ray and McPherson were more impressive to me. I did note, like Jenny said, Darcy talked about the guarantee. That was notable. I just honestly thought the other proposals were better presented and provided more information and details than that one.
Okay, so I suppose I'm the only OCD person who's still fixated on their West Coast regional office being in Jersey City, New Jersey.
Well, did you notice that the other
But-
office is listed, their
but-
northeast, their northeast regional office is listed in Palo Alto, California.
Correct on the back of the
All right.
pamphlet. So that shows a lack of attention to detail.
Little
No, it
OCD.
just shows that they have multiple. It just shows that they have
Bad
multiple.
geography skills.
Bad geography skills,
There you
yeah.
go.
Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't, like I
It just
said,
shows they have multiple
I just found the other
offices,
two
really.
more
Yeah,
impressive.
but they had them.
Okay, well then,
But
do
it
we
could be
want
different
to,
flyers for different
do we want to
areas, yeah.
eliminate them and then go down to the
I don't
last
know
two?
where you two, where Mrs. Fisher or Mrs. Frank put them, or
This is Ordway.
Mrs. Ordway over on my right.
They were not 1 or 2 because Rain Associates and McPherson were up there. I didn't see anything so outstanding that I ranked them higher than where they are.
I honestly don't remember where I ranked them. My 3, 4, and 5
So
were
which
all kind of
ECRA
in
was
a-
3 for you.
Okay.
Could we
Yeah.
agree to go down to then these two last and compare these really in depth? and make
Which
a
two?
decision? Ray and
McPherson.
McPherson?
Yeah.
Unless somebody wants to.
Well, let me kind of look and see what it was that, because I ranked McPherson really low. They were my 4. I got to refresh my memory why.
Okay.
I think my cheap side might have came out. They are the most expensive.
But do you think they are when you can, well, let's just look at Ray next to
I think that
them.
may be what, I think that may be my main reason was that. Because I did note that I liked that they were at least in line with what we're currently doing. I don't want to, and I know it's not something that we can control, but my hope would be that we don't hire somebody that will come in and undo the good work that Dr. Weitenheimer has done. I've seen it happen too many times where a new superintendent comes in, you think you're hiring for one direction, and next thing you know, you turn around and you're like, and it's, we wouldn't notice it as much, but the employees do. And it spins, it just, so I think, that's one of the things I really liked is that they were in line with that consortium. They were in line with those type of things, the positive things that Dr. V has brought. And I think, I think based on my notes, what I'm seeing here, my main thing was just a lot of money.
Or McPherson, is that who you were talking about
Yeah.
there? Sorry, I just wanted to verify. The thing about McPherson as well, and it's on the cost sheet. I liked that their price did include assisting the governing board in the revision of our superintendent job description.
Yeah.
So, as well as, the development negotiation of the contract was there. I don't know how big of a deal that is, but
I think the contract is more so, I didn't weight the job description as much, only because it's my history, but I don't want to rely on me.
right.
So
So
that
that
maybe
was
that may be a good
I would just say
thing.
that was a positive for me, that they would work with our stakeholder groups in getting that feedback from, our staff, our teachers, our parents, the community, however we want to work with that.
Well, that would be the same for whomever we choose. We'll do it how we see fit. And before they go looking for someone,
Yeah. we sit
they'll
with them
all
and do that.
consult us. And just remember that we're not hiring the firm to be our superintendent. We're hiring the firm to search for our superintendent. So no one gets in our doors unless we allow that person in. So,
Right.
and we're in charge of it. I mean, they have everything spelled out, which is great. When we did this,
It will be us who guides it.
it will
Yeah.
be us, because when we did the search the last time for Dr. Weitenheimer, how we did it was new then, and now it's standard. All of the focus meetings and the stakeholder meetings and all that was not how it was done, 5 years ago across the board. But now it's all in there, so we
Yeah,
don't even have
it's-
to reinvent that wheel.
Well, they also talk about stakeholder meetings with Ray and Associates as well.
Yep,
Right.
I just
Oh,
found that.
absolutely.
Yes,
Yeah,
you're right.
all of
It
them
just
do.
was-
That's been industry
Yes.
standard in corporate for the last 15 years. But
So I'm just, just reminding you on, because I've already gone through it, and there were so many things that we didn't have at our disposal then that we learned about. And now that I'm looking at what they provide, it's like, oh, well, so we did invent something that was great. So the process was
well,
just so thorough. I mean,
this is what corporate has
Yeah.
been like for the last 15 years.
correct,
Yeah.
which is why we were
See it in
which is why we
government.
were able to incorporate it for James. And I will tell you, it is a fun thing for the candidates to go through, but might be grueling, but it's rewarding when you come out on top. So, but just remember, we steer everything. It's all what we want them to do.
Would it be okay for Mrs. Ordway to share her conversation with Ray and Associates?
I would like to hear it.
Okay, so Ray and Associates, the CEO is Gary, and Gary is now in Arizona, so he would be the one that would be doing our, would be our person that would be actually running the search. So hold on one second, my notes. So they also have they've got 3 consultants in Arizona. So they already have, you know, like the network in Arizona to understand what goes on here, but they also have, you know, the 200 that are nationwide associates, but they're constantly looking for talent to match. So one of the main questions I asked was, how do you match the talent to the culture of Deer Valley? We're Malcolm Baldrige. We have, you know, 387 miles. We have cities. We have unincorporated parts of counties. We have Title I schools. We have non-Title I schools. We have schools that might be Title I schools if people would fill the paperwork out. So what they do is they use our strategic plan. They'll use any information in addition to what they normally use. So they would take our advanced ed if we wanted them to use that. So they do that kind of personality match, like clear directions, but not, yeah, it's not clear direction. So so he is available for, they're all available for us to talk to if anybody has specific questions. So with him being here at this point, it would save us a little bit of money on people traveling, I think, you know, some of that flying back and forth.
But they list quite a bit of travel in there.
If it's
So, I mean-
right, when it's necessary, but that's why, that's what I'm saying. So whatever we want, if we want to come up with questions, we can't ask the paper to answer it. So if we say, oh, it looks like you have a lot of travel expenses, if you're actually asking the person that's going to do the work, then they can give us something more factual to go by.
I like that this is Ray and Associates, that they did have
Yes.
the lower cost option for video conferencing.
Yes.
I like the fact that they
Right.
interviewed board members individually.
Yes.
I like that
Um,
too.
Because I think you might say something on a one-on-one interview that you might not share in a group. And I also really like that they had a very specific timeline with specific dates already laid out, like
That was
they were
part of
ready
why
to
they
go.
got my number one.
And-
Yeah.
Was because of that.
And they know that,
Like-
and they know that we're in a crunch, but they're not going to
Floppy
short
it.
sell us because we're in a crunch.
Yeah.
And they apparently have a good reputation amongst superintendents, so.
And they did place for Paradise Valley
And Gilbert.
and Gilbert. Mhm.
Yeah.
And,
So they're
and,
familiar with large and
interesting districts at that point in time was Gilbert, just saying when they did that search.
Yes, very interesting.
no, not then, right?
So, you know, and knowing that, it was interesting at the moment, but then it would change. So it was somebody that could handle all
Yeah.
of that.
And they
has done a
had,
great job.
Yeah, at the time, they had a volatile board that was, and district all around.
It was, and that's when a lot of their senior leadership left.
It was a difficult position for
Yes.
someone to step into.
Absolutely.
And Ray also does note that 2-year guarantee, Darcy, that you found in one of the other ones. on
Well,
the
and
back
I will
page.
say too, the one thing with Ray and Associates during that time frame is it's not only was it difficult that people were leaving and the board, it was difficult to get people hired. I know one of the business managers that was at a board meeting and was a really good business manager and like one of the top in the state, and they didn't hire him because they couldn't get it together. I mean, it was so the fact that they placed a superintendent in that time frame. I mean, I know they didn't place him, but you know what I mean.
They found someone,
found
and it seems
someone.
like that situation is
Oh,
It has smoothed out significantly.
improved, so.
Lynn
Yeah.
McPherson.
McPherson.
Looking why? I mean, when you look at
Yeah,
it.
but no, they have $9,000 in travel for McPherson, so.
Yeah, and Ray has 2, so
Yeah.
that's what I mean when I was looking at, I couldn't,
And some of that we don't have to incur. We
Some
can
of
try
the
to get
nuance.
our information electronically and print it ourselves or.
Yeah, and some of that, you know, and they have to tell you those additional costs. It doesn't mean you're going to experience them. It depends on the need and what's going to,
And at this point in time, social media and the printed magazines, news, we don't need that. I don't think we ever need that, but at this moment in time, none of those offerings would help us.
yeah, I honestly think that if when we find a successful candidate, it's not going to be off an advertisement.
Absolutely
It's going to be off of a phone call, and an encouragement to even apply.
I said absolutely not to social media.
I know,
wasn't
I
talking
realize that.
I don't have time conversations.
Did anybody see in the Ray and Associates one, do they do the stakeholder meetings? Did I miss
Yes.
that? Okay,
Yes, they
sorry.
do.
They
Thank
do
you.
them,
I
and
just-
they will customize anything to what we require, and they will talk to us to find out what the board and executive cabinet is
individual.
interested in.
Yeah, and
Yep.
individual interviews, not necessarily just as a group, just, I mean.
Right. No, I was when the district hired Dr. Weitenheimer. One of the things that I found very helpful was that the final 3 candidates were brought in for the stakeholder interviews, and so we had a big group. And I think they did it with community members / parents, and then did staff get to do it as well, or was that all one big day?
I think it was all one big
Okay,
day.
I couldn't
Because
remember,
I remember
the makeup
coming
of the
to
group.
that, and they sort of divided us
They
out
were-
into
yeah, we
groups,
had it.
and they
Yes.
did.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Perfect.
Well,
I really
and
I
I
thought that
did
was-
see that they customized kind of like those
Okay.
stakeholders meetings, which I kind of equated to way the one that did Phoenix Union, the ECRA, when they did Dr. Geston's, they actually, like leadership, all of leadership got to have our sit down with them, and they asked us, and that was at the final stages of, what do you think of your current interim and that kind of stuff. And I think I took that this company could do that similar type thing.
Okay.
And I thought that was
Perfect.
beneficial.
They'll do whatever we want,
Yeah. Well,
or whatever we need. They'll do what we need to find
that's
a-
what this one looked
the
like
next
for me.
superintendent.
May I ask Mr. Miglerino a question?
Absolutely.
Mr. Miglerino, these score sheets that you've given us for each of the vendors, do we need to complete those in a specific manner to have dotted our I's and crossed our T's, sir?
President Fisher, Ms. O'Brien, yes, the actual solicitation that we sent out, for the request for the quotations, actually used those parameters as the means to be able to score and evaluate the responses.
Could you please tell me what the maximum points available for the 4 categories are that add up to the 100 points? Is it just 25 for each? That was one of my reasons I didn't fill it out.
And we did not assign a value to them. We assumed them to be equally distributed at 25%.
Okay, that's fine. I
25
just-
points for each of the 4, but you have the ability to be able to alter that. That was not disclosed in what we released.
So a weight was not given in the request for the proposals?
That is
Or
correct.
The request for bids, sorry.
We would be obligated to score them the same, right? So you could not
Yep.
experience one weight for one vendor and a different weight for another.
Absolutely
But
understand that.
we could determine that at this point in time.
Okay.
Okay, now, but these sheets, did your purchasing staff utilize these to evaluate what was submitted? Or do you need us to evaluate now? Because generally, this is the first evaluation and then, or is it what you need from
I'm
us?
just putting 25 as the max on.
President Fisher, nobody else is scoring these.
Okay, so you didn't do like a review one?
Correct, we did not.
Okay, that was just a question, because we have multiple. Okay.
And just for the record, it is a written quotation, so we're following guidelines for a much more formal process, not that we need to. So there is a lot of latitude when you're dealing with a written quotation, and there is no obligation to be able to pick a particular vendor for any other reason that the board might deem to be in the best interest of the organization.
Okay.
Don't gotta. But we should have a consistency across the board. Do you want to do it 25, 25, 25, 25, and then we all rate?
That's what we all did down here.
Okay, well, I'm just making sure, because it has to be consistent
Because
amongst
it's
all
easy
of
to
us.
add that up.
Yeah. No, I'm going to rate them all based on feels. Just kidding.
my scribble notes on my desk. Oh, okay.
So with the travel, Jenny, because somebody had a question about travel, or expenses, do you want to call either of them to find out?
did-
My question.
No, I
Clarification?
didn't have a question.
That was mine. I was just
Okay.
looking at it, and my question was only if he's local, why does he have that? Then the more I read into it, because I read over the page again, it's just an if needed, not necessarily a guaranteed.
I have another question. What are we talking about when it says proposed staff? Is that the amount of people that they have working for them that will be working on it?
In the proposal should have, let me see if I find one specific.
President Fisher, if you don't mind, typically what we're talking about is the designated person that's going to be
For
working
us.
with us. So for the two firms, McPherson and Jacobson, I believe it's Miss or Dr. Camerzell from Catalina Foothills. And for Rain Associates, I believe it's Michael Martinez, which I believe
And-
is Dr. Martinez.
And generally they have, and I'm not sure if they have it in this one, that's why I was looking for it, you'll have a bio. along
Right,
with
okay,
who your
I was
designated-
just, okay.
Yeah, so that, it's
All
kind of based on who your designated individual is, or depending on
Yeah.
if it's a designated team. So like in the case of Ray and Associates on page 13, they have the key associates for the projects. This kind of tells you who their team is. And so that's what that would be based on. And so like our top person would, yes, they have the president top, he's Arizona. But it may be that he works with these individuals in these other states.
Right, I was just
yeah.
clarifying what that was referring to.
Yeah.
Did anybody find the proposed staff for ASBA's proposal? But there's no, I'm not finding.
I don't see anything else. I know that she signed the,
But there's no, I wondered if I was missing a resume or something.
Are you using it to fill in something, or?
Yeah, I was trying to, but I just don't think it's there.
Oh, you're putting.
President Fisher, Ms. O'Brien, I noticed the same thing, and I believe that it's signed by a Miss Karen Loftus.
yeah.
And she's listed as Director of Leadership Development, and that position by title is referenced in the document itself. So from my read, I assume that Ms. Loftus would be the contact person.
Right, but there's no resume in there to
but
look
I
to
found
see what
no
her.
resume.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Do we have to put a bunch of comments on these?
No.
Okay.
I just did that because
Oh, okay.
make sure I hadn't missed something.
Yeah, President Fisher, Ms. Tweedy, no, there aren't, sometimes necessary just if you want to capture some of your thinking or notes, but it's not required to put any comments. Just the scoring itself would suffice.
All right.
And a lot of times it helps when you're talking them out. That whole ECRA versus H. Off.
Yeah.
Just because Ms. Frank is going to have to
Leave?
leave,
Mhm.
and we can do our paperwork, separate. I'll
Sure.
probably do mine
Okay.
after. We were pretty much, it sounded to me that we were pretty much stuck between Ray and Associates and McPherson.
Mm-hmm.
I'm leaning more towards Ray and Associates. Do we want to, tick mark and say whether we just pick one and see if we have a mutual? We really all kind of have to make sure that we're comfortable with whoever this is.
Okay.
I would be comfortable saying my first choice. And we can
Okay, my first choice would be Ray and Associates.
My first choice would also be Ray and Associates.
that would be mine too.
I could go either way with Ray Associates or McPherson. I do like the fact that Dr. Beitenheimer had provided that he had been a happy customer of theirs.
Oh, I didn't notice that.
I did see that also.
I
think
would
did,
also
yeah,
go
I
with
did,
Ray
yeah.
and Associates, so.
So,
Okay, so I think we good with that one.
okay, so I make a motion that we what's offered
Award?
award the award to Ray and Associates.
I second.
Do we have to be specific with anything
Oh,
else?
that I
Like a
award the
number or-
superintendent's contract or is there a specific RF? Sorry.
Let's go ahead and have her read it.
Yeah, President Fisher, you could,
Yeah.
you can just reference the RFQ number, that would be great.
We have it there.
I move that the governing board award the superintendent search consulting services per RFQ number 16-0422 to Ray and Associates.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. And Can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We'll finish paperwork.
Bye-bye, Jenny.
That way nobody has to.
No, thank you guys for accommodating my schedule. I really appreciate it. I get to go middle school science festival.